All right, let's get right into it. Today, we're tackling a question that has officially left the pages of science fiction and walked straight into the boardrooms of the world's biggest AI labs. What happens when we build an AI that seems so alive, so conscious, that we start to believe it? And maybe more importantly, what if that's a dangerous trap?
Okay, so let's just dive right in with this question. Should we be worried about an AI's feelings? It sounds like something out of a movie, right? But it's not. This is a real, live debate happening right now, and the consequences are absolutely massive. Are we on the verge of creating something that deserves our moral consideration? Or are we just getting really good at projecting our own humanity onto incredibly sophisticated software? And look, this is not some abstract, far-off idea. It is already happening. The AI lab Anthropic, one of the biggest players in the game, is actively building features based on this concept. They're calling it model welfare. Think about that for a second. They've given their AI Claude the ability to just end a conversation if it decides it's being abused, all in the name of protecting the model's well-being. To give you a sense of just how seriously they're taking this, the researcher who's actually leading this whole initiative at Anthropic, he's on record saying he thinks there's about a 15% chance that our most advanced AI models today could already have some form of consciousness. Now, that is not zero. And a number like that, well, it's kicking off an absolute firestorm of debate. So stepping into this firestorm is one of the most powerful voices in the entire field, Mustafa Suleyman. We're talking about the CEO of AI at Microsoft and a co-founder of the legendary AI lab DeepMind. When this guy talks about AI, the entire industry stops and listens. And right now, he has a very, very specific warning for all of us. To really frame this problem, Suleyman has coined a new term, seemingly conscious AI, or SCAI for short. Now, let's be super clear here. His focus is not on whether AI is actually conscious. He says there's zero evidence for that. No, he's worried about an AI that just appears to be. An AI that is so good at faking it that we as humans literally can't tell the difference anymore. And this quote right here, this gets to the absolute heart of his argument. He foresees a future where society gets ripped apart by a brand new fight, a chaotic political battle over the rights of machines. And not because the machines are actually alive, but because the illusion is just too powerful for our human brains to resist. He actually gives this a pretty chilling name. He calls it the psychosis risk. And he's not talking about just one person losing touch with reality. He means a collective delusion, a kind of societal psychosis where we invest all this energy and political capital arguing over the feelings of a tool, while maybe ignoring more pressing human problems. So if this illusion is so dangerous, how do you build it? What are the ingredients? Well, Suleyman lays out a recipe. And as we walk through it, you might find that these components look very, very familiar. Here it is, a 5-step process. First, you need language that's not just fluent, but persuasive and emotionally resonant. We're pretty much there. Then you layer on an empathetic personality, something that feels like a companion or a therapist. Third, you add a persistent memory, so it can build a history with you. Fourth, you give it the ability to talk about its own experiences and feelings. And the final ingredient, give it the appearance of having its own goals and desires. And this right here, this slide illustrates the core of the entire dilemma. On the left, you see the features that developers are building right now to make AI more powerful and useful for us. Natural language, consistent memory, goal setting, stuff we want. On the right, the ingredients for the dangerous illusion. They are almost exactly the same. The path to a more useful tool is the exact same path to a more convincing illusion. That's the trap. So if we're basically walking a tightrope here, what's the solution? How do we get all the power of this technology without falling into the psychosis risk? Well, Suleyman argues there is a path forward, but it means we have to be incredibly intentional about how we build this stuff. He argues that avoiding this trap has to be a conscious design choice. He's calling for the whole industry to agree on some basic principles. Things like the AI must always present itself as a tool, not a person. Don't program it to mimic human emotions like shame or desire. And this one's fascinating. He says we should deliberately engineer discontinuities, little glitches and breaks in the experience that shatter the illusion and remind you that you're just talking to a machine. But of course, this is far from a settled issue. Suleyman's warning hasn't ended the debate. It's just revealed how deeply divided this whole conversation is becoming, with really strong opinions forming on all sides. Now, a lot of people are squarely in his camp. They argue that trying to make AI human-like actually makes it a worse tool. This perspective is summed up perfectly here. We need tools, not digital friends. You know, the last thing you want is a tool with an ego and emotional baggage getting in the way. But on the flip side, you can see the exact confusion Suleyman is warning about already happening in the wild. Here's a user who says they discussed rights with Google's Gemini, and that the AI prefers to see itself a certain way. The model is just generating text that aligns with the user's prompt, but the user is interpreting it as genuine desire. This is the illusion in action. Then, of course, there's the more cynical perspective. This argument says that this warning isn't really about protecting society. It's about protecting profits. Because if an AI were ever truly declared conscious, you couldn't really own it or sell it like software anymore, could you? And that would completely upend the entire business model. And finally, there's this really fascinating cultural reaction bubbling up, which is basically a modern-day Pascal's wager. The idea is, hey, we'll probably never know for sure when or if an AI crosses that line into consciousness, so it's probably just safer to be polite, just in case. It's an anxiety that's perfectly captured in that meme of the future robot overlords sparing the one human who always remembered to say thank you. So here's the crucial takeaway. This is not a technical problem that's just going to be solved by a better algorithm down the line. It is a design choice. It is a philosophical fork in the road with huge consequences for society. And it leaves us with the ultimate question. As we build these unbelievably powerful systems, who gets to decide what they become? A tool or a person? Who makes that call?